What a Catch, Part 62, a Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction. If you have not heard the previous 61 parts of this story, you can find a link to them in the description box below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and comment down below in support of more fanfiction. Chloe sat on her bed, her anxiety sitting on her chest like an obese dog. If there were a day that she could curl up and block out the world, it would be today. Unfortunately, life wasn't about to give her that. She was worried about Marinette and, after seeing the inflatable party set up on the news, she was hesitating on her role as a miraculous holder. If Cat Noir had wanted her to fight, he would have found a way to invite her, right? Did he not need her and Pollen? Was it just like before? Ladybug first and everyone else after? Nothing had changed in the last decade. She was still losing to Marinette, even when Marinette was down in the dumps and Chloe was a successful businesswoman. It was almost insulting, actually, that he always chose her over herself no matter how far they had developed, but she couldn't get mad. Anyone would want the girl they loved over herself. But who would be there to love her? Besides her father, Chloe couldn't think of a single person who honestly loved her. Not her ex-boyfriends, not the staff, not even Sabrina. But that was Chloe's fault. So should she even stay here? In a city that doesn't love her for her, but for her status? Should she continue trying to make her life here? Chloe loved Paris, but it became toxic for her over the years. A friendly poison that ripped out her worth and plastered it on titles and magazine covers. What was she without her money and fame? Except for Pollen, she was alone in this world. She needed to leave. Chloe Bourgeois needed to get out of Paris, but where would she go? Tokyo? London? New York City. That's right. She was supposed to leave tonight with Marinette anyway. But somehow tonight seemed too far away. The walls were closing in, and she needed to leave. Now. She pulled out her phone and texted Marinette that something came up and she'd see her in the States tomorrow. Chloe grabbed her suitcase and a charger before running downstairs and catching a taxi to the airport. This was it. She was leaving and not coming back. She was moving, taking only what could fit in her suitcase, to a new and exciting city. It almost felt like it was calling her. New York City was calling her. Her English was great. Nearly perfect, in fact, as she was tutored since she was 4 and had traveled abroad since she was 5. There was nothing to worry about. She still had the key to Adrian's penthouse as long as he hadn't changed the locks in the last few years, and even if he had, she had more than enough money to crash at a hotel. Worst case scenario, she would crash at Nathaniel's place unannounced. Or would that be the best case scenario? Chloe blushed at the thought. There's no way he liked her, and she wasn't sure why she let the idea of him fluster her so much recently. He was just another guy. From high school, no less. Why couldn't this feeling fade away? By the time she reached the airport, she had booked a last-minute ticket in first class and had almost pushed the thoughts of Nathaniel out of her head. Almost. Pollen was securely tucked away in her purse. Grumbling, of course. She hated hiding, and going through security proved to be a breeze. Of course, she had flown so many times before that some of the staff could recognize her even if they hadn't spent years watching her with her father on TV together. And so, less than an hour after an impulsive decision to leave the country, Chloe found herself on the next flight out to New York City. She was able to nap for an hour or so, but as the minutes ticked by, she decided to open her laptop to continue working on her guilty pleasure. A novel where she was the main character, but not for looks or money. A story where the neighboring girl fell in love with her for who she was, with cute little dates to the bookstore and the aquarium. She was less than halfway done, with the manuscript at a weak 32,000 words, but that was all right. She'd never let anyone read it after all. That would be too embarrassing. The book was written for her eyes, and her eyes only. She would be too flustered to function if someone else found out about it. Chloe was able to plow away another 3,000 words before the plane landed. It was a bit slower than her usual pace, but progress is progress. Writing takes time after all. She put her things away as the seatbelt sign beeped at her and stood up, grateful for the opportunity to stretch. Almost an hour and a taxi ride later, she found herself at Adrian's apartment in the city, looming over her and blocking out the afternoon sun. "Hey there," Chloe said, stepping up to the receptionist. "I'm here to visit Adrian Agreste." "Apartment 907. The other guy got here this morning." "Other guy?" English felt strange on her tongue. "What was his name? Nemo? Now, something like that." "Huh. Yeah, I know him. Thanks for the heads up." Chloe opted for the elevator instead of the stairs. She was in heels, after all, and 8 beeps later she was on the 9th floor, fumbling the key out of her wallet. She hoped Nino wouldn't be inside, as she came here to escape from her life and let herself inside. Looking back, she should have taken a moment to listen through the door, because she would have heard the scream from inside, but alas, it fell on deaf ears. She entered the apartment, seemingly empty with hardwood floors as they enunciated her presence with the clicks of her high heels echoing through them. The apartment seemed lonely, with standard art to decorate it and no photos of friends and family to be found. But Chloe didn't mind. It was just a place to sleep until she got her own place after all. Setting down her purse on the countertop, she noticed the package's wrapping and scoffed. Talk about rude. She thought Nino had better manners than to leave a mess, but it was obvious Chloe was mistaken. Clicking her tongue, she turned the corner to go to the bathroom. She opened the door to check her makeup in the vanity and, before her brain could process what was in front of her, she screamed. "Wait! No! Don't freak out!" She grabbed the nearest object, the plunger, and held it between them. Chloe's reaction hadn't been because she was scared of Nino. She just didn't know anyone was in the apartment, and she was surprised. She slowly lowered the plunger as she took a moment to look at him. "Nino? You're dressed like Cat Noir? Long story." She narrowed her eyes. Chloe could feel the energy coming off of him, and she hated when people tried to fib. Her father had fibbed to her for years. "No, you're not just dressed like him. That's his suit. Why do you have it?" she demanded. What was the real Cat Noir going to do for the Hawkmoth fight? The fight. Chloe knew she was going to miss it, but what time was it? She checked her watch. It was still the afternoon in New York, but it was almost 8 in the evening back home. The fight would be over. "We have to check the news," she said, her voice shaking. She didn't bother to hear Nino's response as she sat down and opened her laptop. She was scared. Chloe was scared for her partners. If Cat Noir didn't have his Miraculous, how could he possibly fight Hawkmoth? "What does it say?" Nino asked, standing behind her while still dressed in leather. "Why don't you take that off?" Chloe hit her computer, frustrated that it still hadn't connected to the Wi-Fi. "The suit? What else would I be referring to?" "Oh, I don't know how." You need to will it off.
Will off my clothes? That sounds scandalous, and maybe even illegal if we were in public.
Don't be gross. She saw a flash of green light reflect off the walls as her frustration with her technology grew. Chloe pulled out her phone and opened a new tab in the browser, hoping she would have more success. Sighing in defeat, she turned to Nino for help and, once again, screamed. "Nino!" she yelled. "Put some clothes on!"
Oh, sorry.
He was wearing jeans, but the image of him topless wasn't safe for work.
In my defense, I didn't think I'd accidentally transform into a superhero dude before I finished getting dressed.
I don't care!
So, what's going on, dude? Why are you in New York?
Can't the ketchup wait for later, Nino? I need to find out if they're all right. And why do you have that ring?
Oh, this?
Nino slipped the ring off and held it up towards the ceiling for a better angle.
It was delivered to Adrian.
Chloe froze. That meant one of two things. Either Adrian knew Cat Noir, or he is Cat Noir. And if it's the latter, then she was scared. "Oh no," she whispered. "Adrian, no."
What's wrong?
Cat Noir fought Hawkmoth today. If you have his miraculous, then there's no way he isn't hurt. Nino looked up with panic across his face.
Oh, he sputtered. But if Ladybug's there, she can use Lucky Charm, right? He'll get better, right?
Not if Hawkmoth gets her miraculous first. That, or if he's killed in action. Silence flooded the room as reality set in, but there was nothing they could do. The internet wasn't working, and they couldn't get back to Paris on time. It was over. And Chloe, with all of her years of having everyone else do things for her against her will, had never felt more useless. Thank you so much for listening. Part 63 will be available early next week. In the meantime, you can check out these other videos for more fan fiction. I'll catch you next time.